Well, good morning. There we go. Now we're ready. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Office of Illinois Works 2026 Grantee Manual Session 3. The 2026 Grantee Manual is comprised of 14 different sections. This is the third and last of the 3 webinars in which we are covering all of the sections. This training is very important for grantees. I mentioned this in Grantee Manual Session 2 for those of you that were there. But not only is it full of guidance that organizations are required to follow as part of your grant agreement, but it also has tools to help you implement your program and succeed in this performance-based grant. So it's really important, and I
Lautenbach. Did we ever
appreciate
come
being
up
here.
with a day to meet with him? Was that confirmed for the?
I think we have somebody that is not on mute. So if you could definitely mute your line, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. The target audience for this program are individuals accountable for data entry, data management, and pre-apprenticeship program completion tracking, transition support, follow-up services, or any tasks related to contact with participants after graduating from the program. Also, financial management and overall program administration. So job titles from the Illinois Works program, the different roles that should be attending are program administrators, program managers, program coordinators, training coordinators, transition coordinators, data entry coordinators, and anyone else that's accountable for their anyone else that's accountable for their curriculum content or their program reporting. So if we can go to the next slide. This training, as I mentioned, is the third and final webinar in this 3-part series in which we're reviewing each section of the 2026 Grantee Manual. As I just had stated, it's very important in order to be able to effectively implement your Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program. In sections 1 and 2, we covered the first 8 sections of the Grantee Manual, and this webinar is a continuation of that series, and we'll cover the remaining 6 sections. So my name is Dan Martinez, and I am the Senior Pre-Apprenticeship Program Manager for the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. I've been with the state for 7 years. I've worked with DCO since 2022, and I've had the privilege to assist grantees initially as a programmatic grant manager and more recently as a financial grant manager. This has given me the opportunity to see firsthand the impact that the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program can make and the importance of the onboarding training that we provide to our grantees. So I really appreciate everyone's time, and I look forward to sharing with you all some very important information. So, of course, I'm not the only person on this webinar today. Shiv, if we can advance to the next screen. Illinois Works has a team of professionals that are committed to supporting your pre-apprenticeship program success. And I'll introduce some of the folks that are joining us on this call today. Monica, if you could go ahead and turn on your camera and say hello to everyone.
They can't get rid of me. Good morning, everyone. I'm Monica Pruitt, one of the programmatic grant managers here for the Office of Illinois Works. Thank you for joining us today.
And we're not trying to, Monica. We're definitely happy to have you.
Very good to know. Thank you.
Edwin, can you say hello to the audience?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Dan. Good morning, everyone. Edwin Sanchez Molina. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. And Shar, another one of the grant managers. Can you say hello?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shar. I'm a programmatic grant manager in the Chicago office. Welcome.
Thank you. We also have some members from our professional development team that are helping us with the presentation today. Carlita, can you say hello to everyone?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Olivia, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, good morning. Thank you everyone for coming today.
Thank you. And Shiva.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today.
And finally, our professional development lead, Gia.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome.
Thank you very much, everyone. So this is the team that will be facilitating the content today. It's important to acknowledge that the entire Office of Illinois Works is part of the program, beginning with, of course, our Deputy Director, Dr. Norman Ruano, who was selected by the Governor's Office to create and operate this program. We also have additional members of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program team that are not on this call, as well as, teams within the Office of Illinois Works, such as the Apprenticeship Initiative, the Bid Credit Program, and Career Services. I'll talk more a little bit about that in the next slide. So the Office of Illinois Works, Shiva, if you can advance. There we go. The Office of Illinois Works was created as a result of Governor Pritzker's historic $45 billion capital plan, and it's part of his commitment to expanding equity in the Illinois construction workforce. As an Illinois Works grantee, you are now part of this exciting new initiative that creates opportunities for Illinois residences, for the businesses of Illinois, communities, and ultimately families of everyone impacted. So the Illinois Works program, as I was just mentioning, consists of several programs. The Apprenticeship Initiative, which is part of the demand generation for the pre-apprenticeship program participants, the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program itself, which you are all a part of, and the Bid Credit Program, which incentivizes contractors to work with our graduates and help them on their journey to becoming having lifelong careers in the construction and trades industries. This training is part of a 3-part series that reviews the grantee manual. And again, it's really meant to ensure that you can effectively implement that pre-apprenticeship program. So over the next 3 hours, we will cover the final 6 sections of the 2026 grantee manual. If you have not yet accessed the 2026 grantee manual, a link is being provided for you in the chat. I should note that manuals from previous grant years are no longer valid, and that programs are held to the requirements and standards that are in the current year grantee manual for their programming. So it's very important to make sure you have downloaded a copy, are familiar with the rules and policies and procedures in the 2026 grantee manual. So I mentioned that we will cover the remaining sections of the 2026 grantee manual today. That includes Section 9, Professional Development and Technical Assistance. Shiva, if you can advance the slide, please. There we go. And then Section 10, the grantees' data management and data management systems. Section 11, which will be finances, records, and reports that are required. Section 12 is using data for program management and program improvement. Section 13, programmatic monitoring. And Section 14, which includes the audit requirements. So what are we hoping to communicate during these sessions? So really, we're wanting to ensure that by the end of this session, Shiva, can you advance the slide, please? That you will be able to describe the strategic role that professional development and technical assistance provide to support your program's success. Adhere to the guidelines of your program's track. You'll be introduced to the tracks if you're not familiar with them. We do have 3 different tracks that we place each grantee program into. Incorporate the Illinois Works data management process into your program process. Again, that's not only a requirement, but it's really meant to facilitate and improve the way you operate your pre-apprenticeship program. Enter data into each data category in IWRS. That's the Illinois Works reporting system. Utilize record-keeping best practices. That includes maintaining participant files. It's a very important and required part of being a grantee. Next slide, please. Make sure you can access GATA standardized reports, or at least understand what they are and know that they're a requirement. Comply with the Illinois Works payment model guidelines. Effectively use data to support the program management. Incorporate a continuous program improvement model. Adhere to the programmatic monitoring. That's a critical aspect for operating this grant, and I'm glad that everyone's here today to walk through that section of the grantee manual with us. And then comply with appropriate audit requirements, which certainly is a GATA requirement that everyone should be aware of. So as you heard when you joined the call, this session is being recorded. We will make it available for your review on the Illinois Works Partner Guide. Hopefully everyone has been accessing that partner guide and has it bookmarked already, but if not, a link will be provided for you in the chat, and then I highly encourage you to go ahead and bookmark that. So before we move on to the next section, do we have any questions?
There are no questions in the chat.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so we'll move on, and we'll walk through the welcome and introduction. Again, for all of our meetings, we really feel it's important for the grantees to truly become a network and get to know one another. So it's important to introduce ourselves. It's also important as a record keeping. We've actually, just as an aside, we've been audited before internally from the state of Illinois, and some grantees have had to request from us proof that they attended these onboarding sessions. So in addition to WebEx keeping a record, this is also a way for you to ensure that you can pass those audits. So it's important to identify yourself and welcome everyone into the WebEx sessions. The WebEx features, we'll go through that very quickly, and then identify what you hope to learn today. So one of the things that's important to utilize, we try to have these experiences be as interactive as possible. So we have Mentimeter as our communication device. You should be able to access it right within WebEx. There should be a window to the right-hand side of your screen that indicates a multimedia viewer alert, and there's a blue button in there that you can click for continue, and that will allow you to access Multimeter directly in your WebEx panel. If for any reason, maybe you're sharing a computer, you want each person to have access to that Mentimeter and you can't use WebEx for it, a link is being placed in the chat. You can click on that link. That will take you directly into the Mentimeter, or if you want to open it on your phone on the side or a different system, you can go to www.menti.com and place the code. The code we're using today is 35950180, I believe. But again, that was placed in the chat for you. All right, so I mentioned that we are going to go through introductions. So we're going to use a Mentimeter for this. We're asking that you, place your name, your agency, or the grantee name that you're operating under, your role, and your geographic location. And then if you've attended these grantee manual sessions before, go ahead and please add an asterisk, 1 or 2 asterisks, so that we can see who's been part of the previous sessions. So we're going to turn this over to Mentimeter. And giving everyone a chance to log in. And you can see that code up at the top. Again, if you're logging in through a phone or a different device, you can go to menti.com and enter that code you see at the top of the screen, 35950180. And it looks like we have 37 people out of the 50 or so that are attending the WebEx today that have been able to enter into Mentimeter so far. And now we're starting to see some of the people that have joined. So we appreciate this. To Sean, with Eden Career Institute. Good morning. Elena with Metropolitan Family Services. Latricia with Chicago Prison Outreach. Jake Yeager with Revolution Workshop. Courtney with Clio. Janet with Metropolitan Family Services. Daisy with Hasia. Marina with Metropolitan Family Services. Dave with R3 Development. Barbara from ASI. Simon with Chicagoland Prison Outreach. Lynette with Hasia. Melissa from Eden Career Institute. Lynette with Eden Career Institute. Good morning. Thank you all for being here today. We have Samoan, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, from Chicago Heights, Bethel Family Resource Center. Cassandra with Bethel Family. Ayana with Quad County Urban League. Lita with Center of Innovation. Robert with Bethel. Good morning. Jana with Quad County. Charles with Metropolitan Family Services. I should just go with MFS, right? Save me from getting tongue-tied. Debbie with R3 Development. Vanessa with Metropolitan Family Services. Kennedy from Tools Up Foundation. Jabril from Clio. Tamala from Ascending Knowledge. Naveed with MFS. Hannah with MFS. Brianna with Center of Innovation. Good morning, everyone. Haley with Ascending Knowledge. Yari from Hasia. Rosalind with the Springfield Project. Good to see you today. Victoria with Youth Build McLean. And Aaron with Clio. Well, it looks like a whole group of folks may be coming in from that Clio. We have Aaron and Nicole, Darius, Vanessa, Ashia, and Joel. So thank you all for joining. I appreciate your participation in Mentimeter. Again, we like to try to keep these as interactive as possible. Good morning, Merrick. So thank you so much. If you haven't entered into Mentimeter, you can still do so. Again, we'll be coming right back to this in just a moment. So if we can go back to the presentation. WebEx, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. Maybe we should move this to the very front and make sure everyone is muted when they come in, but that's really the key. Please mute your line. We do have designated spots during the presentation in which we ask if the audience has any questions. Feel free to unmute yourself at that time, or you can place questions in the chat as we go at any time, and then we will cover those when we stop and pause for questions. So I know the majority of you have been here before, so we're going to move on from the WebEx tutorial. Back to Mentimeter. So we want to know, is there anything in particular you are hoping we cover today? This helps us identify and confirm that we're all in the right session. If there's anything we're not covering, we will let you know when we do cover that information. So it's really helpful all the way around. So as I mentioned, we were jumping right back into Mentimeter. So hopefully you all stayed there. And let's take a look at what kind of questions we have. So reimbursement, hoping we cover reimbursement. We do absolutely, we touch on that. We use a performance reimbursement model. So there's a couple components to it, and we're going to talk about that today. File name convention, all current information. Of course, we're talking about the 2026 Grantee Manual, specific roles. We're covering some of the roles that we are having, although we did cover roles in depth in Grantee Manual Session 2. So that is in the partner guide. You can always rewatch those or watch those for the first time if you haven't been there before. IWRS navigation. That is not something we're covering in the meeting today, although on Wednesday, for new IWRS users, we are holding a day-long training in DeKalb. We will have an IWRS update session for experienced IWRS users next week. So participant field and rec. Not sure which one that is. It looks like maybe it got cut off there a little bit, but overall current information again, program flow. Certainly gaining a holistic look of the life cycle is very important, and we're going to keep touching on that life cycle. So thank you for sharing some of the information you're looking for us to cover today. As always, if you have any questions during or after this training, you can reach out to your grant manager, or we do have a general email box. If we go back to that, we have a general email box. You can always reach out to us at the ceo.ilwgrantmanagement@illinois.gov. All right, so any questions before we proceed to the next section?
There are no questions in the chat.
Well, perfect. All right, well, Carlita, you can just stay on. I'm going to hand things over to you, and you can talk to everyone about the Section 9 of the Grantee Manual. Thank you.
All right. Well, good morning again, everyone. And so for this section, we are going to review these objectives. We would like for you to be able to identify the professional development opportunities provided by the Office of Illinois Works, reference professional development expectations for grantees, save the dates for the upcoming professional development sessions, and ensure internal professional development offerings are responsive to linguistic and cultural needs. Next slide, please. So let's take a look at Section 9, Professional Development and Technical Assistance of the 2026 Grantee Manual. And we're going to move on to the next slide for Professional Development and Technical Assistance. Next slide, please. Grantees must plan to participate in professional development and technical assistance throughout the grant year. You may be familiar with the DCEO definition of the term technical assistance, or TA, for all professional development support. Illinois Works uses the context presented here during this session. Professional development, ED as we call it, is the culmination of tools, techniques, and strategies that impact the knowledge, skills, and behaviors and attitudes of grantees to successfully implement an Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program, comply with its policies and procedures, and effectively utilize its technological applications. PD includes structured sessions in person or via WebEx that seek to prevent or mitigate future challenges. Now, the definition for technical assistance, or TA, is a one-on-one or small group intervention that aids in course correction. It is the responsibility of each grantee to comply with Illinois Works professional development requirements. In addition, grantees must budget for supplemental development for instructors and program staff as appropriate. Next slide. So to help ensure program success, Illinois Works provides a robust catalog of professional development and technical assistance offerings. We start with webinar sessions, program coaching, Toolbox Tuesdays. And by the way, Toolbox Tuesdays are on the second Tuesday of each month, excluding holidays and holiday weeks. Illinois Works will host an optional 1-hour session open to all grantee staff members. We also offer regional meetings. These are in-person, full-day professional development gatherings for grantee staff members and administrators, and they promote networking out among grantees and provide updates on Illinois Works and IWRS. Location and scheduling details are available on the Illinois Works Partner Guide, but this year's regional meeting is scheduled for May 27, 2026 at the NIU facility in Naperville. We also provide, again, technical assistance. This can be one-on-one or in a group setting. In addition, we offer communities of practice. We call that the COPs. Now, communities of practice include, but are not limited to, Track 3 administrators, accelerator program, transition service coordinators, wraparound service coordinators, trainers and instructors, and data entry coordinators. COP may include required monthly meetings and other technical assistance. And finally, we offer our annual conference. Now, the regional meeting and the Illinois Works annual conference offer benefits associated with activities that support grantee compliance with program expectations. The annual conference is typically scheduled in the fall of this year's annual, and so this year's annual conference is slated for October of 2026. To learn more about these offerings and the onboarding sessions, see tables 19, 20, and 21 of your grantee manual. The Illinois Works Partner Guide provides information regarding program dates, times, and registration. And a link to the partner guide is now being provided to you in the chat. PD stipends for mandatory in-person instructor training are permissible, provided that they are reasonable in relation to the time spent and do not exceed the instructor's regular pay. For example, the stipend for a full-day instructor professional development session should not exceed $400, while a half-day session should not exceed $200. Grantees are required to ensure appropriate staff participate in each of the above professional development opportunities, as well as ensure there are appropriate budget line items to support the participants. Webinars are each designed to provide grantees with information on how to navigate the Illinois Works reporting system, utilize the Illinois Works Grantee Manual, and implement critical program requirements such as obtaining certifications for pre-apprenticeship instructors, providing effective transition services, and utilizing data to create a program improvement plan, among others. Now, the webinar schedule is subject to change. The date and time of the current offerings are available on our partner guide. Webinars are a requirement, no exceptions, for all grantees, regardless of their track assignment. So let's talk about webinars. We'll start with that. Webinars are professional development opportunities conducted over the internet. The Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program webinar sessions may include, but not be limited to, training, informational, or conference sessions as well. Webinar sessions will be recorded and made available through the Illinois Works Partner Guide unless otherwise noted. You can view the current webinar schedule, register for a session, or access recordings at the Illinois Works Partner Guide, and the link has already been provided for you in the chat. So as we get into talking about communities of practice, a community of practice is a group of individuals who share a common interest, profession, or passion and come together to learn from one another, collaborate, and develop their knowledge and expertise in a specific domain. Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program leverages a virtual community of practice for professional groups, including but not limited to our Track 3 Administrator Accelerator Program, Transition Services Coordinators, Wraparound Service Coordinators, Trainers and Instructors, and Data Entry Coordinators. The Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Community of Practice utilizes the Illinois Works Learning Management System platform where subject matter experts from Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program and grantees can share information, network, problem solve, and continuously learn and improve programming in their respective areas. The grantee staff are required to participate in their assigned virtual community of practice platform and virtual community meetings. Attendance and engagement in the community of practice meetings, virtual community of practice platform are tracked and reported as part of the professional development monthly required attendance report. So these meetings are mandatory and they are being tracked. For program coaching, this is a tailored engagement between professional program coach and the grantee. Next slide, please. This opportunity allows grantees to receive individually tailored support with the goal of mitigating or preventing program challenges and proactively supporting program success. Coaches are not programmatic staff and cannot assist grantees with program delivery. The goal of program coaching is to provide grantees with customized support in the following domains: instructional certifications. So the primary focus of the instructional certification coaching is to ensure grantees have certified instructors on or before the start of their instruction in each certification area, have requirements in place related to the curriculum they have chosen, and that grantees use and follow the curriculum policies, procedures, and technologies. Next, pre-apprenticeship lifestyle program coaching. The primary focus of program coaching is to guide and support Illinois Work grantees through strategically planned and carefully implemented program that will specifically address the needs of grantees' targeted population. Then we have business development. The primary focus of business development or business coaching is to provide real-time solution-oriented support in specific areas of organizational development. So the Illinois Works coaching domains address approximately 30 coaching needs. If you would like more information about these domains, you can see Table 22, Coaching Domains, found in your 2026 Grantee Manual on page 92. Now, as far as required coaching, if we can go back to that slide, Shiva. Program coaching is required by the Office of Illinois Works for tracks 2 and 3 grantees and provided an opt-in option for track 1 grantees. Coaches are not programmatic staff. They are consultants instead and do not assist grantees with program delivery. Program coaching is tailored to provide proactive and preventative one-on-one support driven by a needs analysis and coaching plan. Approximately 75% of coaching support is proactive and 25% is reactive. The Illinois Works program coach partners with individual grantees to help ensure program success and alignment with their Illinois Works grant expectations. Illinois Works grantees are contractually required to comply with coaching expectations. Additional detailed guidance regarding the Illinois Works program coaching is available starting on page 191 on 2026 Grantee Manual. So let's move on to track designations. Grantees will be assessed for program readiness. Grantee track designations will be the result of a comprehensive needs analysis process that considers the available information resulting from the NOFO and contracting process. Renewal grantees will have the additional benefit of their previous year's performance outcomes to help inform their track designations. The needs analysis produces red flags, which are warning signals that indicate a potential performance concern. So needs analysis documents and information sources may include, but aren't necessarily limited to, internal controls questionnaire, which is ICQ, DCEO programmatic risk assessment, NOFO reviewers application evaluation scoring sheets and notes, Illinois Works coaching needs assessment questionnaire, per the direction of the Illinois Works Deputy Director, monthly compliance reports for renewal grantees only, prior year performance outcomes for renewal grantees only. In addition, Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program considers program development, longevity, capacity, and experience relevant to construction and the building trades. Illinois Works retains the right to update or change the above criteria for track designations at its discretion. Once the information from each of the data sources has been analyzed, the track designations for the grantee is established either on track 1, track 2, or track 3. You can find more information about the track descriptions in table 23 located on pages 194 and 195 of the 2026 Grantee Manual. Moving on to professional development and coaching plans. At the end of the needs analysis process, grantees will be identified as either track 1 and receive recommendations for the professional development plan, or tracks 2 or 3 and receive a coaching plan accompanied with their track designations. So let's take a closer look at that. A track 1 grantee will receive an internal professional development plan. A track 2 and 3 accelerated program grantee will receive a coaching plan and will be required to attend coaching. More information regarding the expectations of each track designation is available on table 23, track descriptions. There is some fluidity with regards to the track designations, though most tracks will remain static. It is possible for a grantee to experience a change in their track based on their program performance. Additional detailed guidance regarding the Illinois Works program coaching is available on page 191. For more information about the internal professional development plan, see template 2, sample internal development plan, which is available also in the appendix of the 2026 grantee annual. Moving on to the next slide. So track 1, though there may be exceptions, track 1 grantees are typically experienced at delivering construction and or building trades pre-apprenticeship programs with a robust staffing infrastructure, including strong formal partnerships or contract vendor relationships. Track 2, though there may be exceptions, track 2 grantees are typically new to delivering construction and or building trades pre-apprenticeship programs or do not have a robust staffing infrastructure to effectively respond to the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program expectations. And track 3, unlike the other 2 tracks, track 3 accelerated program grantees are generally, not always, identified during the no-fail process. These grantees are contractually required to participate in the program coaching for a minimum of 10 and up to 20 hours a month. If additional coaching is required, a determination will be at the discretion of the Illinois Works Deputy Director. Grantees with this designation will receive a comprehensive coaching plan based on the grantee competencies that have been found to have the strongest correlation to program success. Coaching needs that emerged as a result of their needs analysis. In addition, track 3 grantees will receive substantial technical assistance, financial support, and resources to support their success. Their performance will be monitored biweekly, and intensity of the support needed will be adjusted accordingly. And so grantee progress will be evaluated at the 3, 6, and 9 months point in the coaching process. Evaluation criteria may include, but not be limited to, coaching compliance, competency development per coaching needs, compliance reports, and successful program implementation through the pre-apprenticeship life cycle. And so we're going to move on to our technical assistance. Technical assistance is the process of providing targeted assistance to grantees with the goal of program performance improvement. While the aim of program coaching is prevention and mitigation, technical assistance aids with course correction, to help ensure programs are aligned with the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program requirements and guidance. Grantees will receive one-on-one intervention, corrective action plan, or compliance support. Technical assistance helps grantees meet critical milestones for the successful implementation of their pre-apprenticeship program, and grantee compliance with technical assistance is required. And so we're going to move on and talk about the difference versus program coaching. So program coaching versus technical assistance. It's important to clearly differentiate between the two. Program coaching is prevention and mitigation, while technical assistance aids with course correction. Program coaching is scheduled regularly, while grantees will be alerted when technical assistance is necessary. Program coaching is primarily proactive, while technical assistance is reactive. Program coaching is delivered by independent consultants, and technical assistance is delivered by Illinois Works grant managers or other Illinois Works staff. You can find more information regarding the difference between program coaching and technical assistance in Exhibit 12, titled Program Coaching versus Technical Assistance, in the appendix of your 2026 grantee manual. So let's move on. We are going to talk about grantee internal professional development. Illinois Works understands its program requirements are part of a new model for many grantees. As a result, it has implemented a robust professional development agenda that includes webinars, coaching, technical assistance, and conferences. Grantees know their instructional program staff program and staff. As a result, they should leverage their institutional knowledge to develop an internal professional development plan for the specific needs of their program instructors and staff. Now, based on the needs analysis results, track 1 grantees will receive recommendations regarding specific focus areas that should be incorporated into their internal professional development plan. For more information about track 1 internal professional development plan recommendations, see the program coaching plan versus internal professional development plan on page 176 of your grantee manual. I'm getting a little tongue-tied here. Let me take a deep breath, and we're going to move into talking about internal professional development plans. An internal professional development plan outlines the development requirements for all staff. At a minimum, it includes but is not limited to title roles expectations, professional development, events, and approved staff. Now, template 20, which is titled Sample Internal Professional Development Plan, is available in the appendix of the grantee manual or on the Illinois Works Partner Guide as a resource page. Please use it and customize it for your purposes in case you do not already have your own plan. So now we're going to switch over to Mentimeter and engage you for a moment with our first question. Using Mentimeter, what type of professional development opportunities have you planned or are you planning for your staff? Trying to give everyone a few minutes to build their questions out. And as you see, the link has been added to the chat for those of you who need to access the link again. Weekly team updates. All right, weekly monitoring, these types of sessions, weekly team updates again. All right, anything else? Zoom calls, team building, online chats, these are all great. Team meetings, all Illinois Works Career Apprenticeship training, continuous training. Okay, now they're flooding in. Ditto to 2 team meetings at work. Okay, great. Networking, education advancement, one-on-one meetings. Very good. Thank you all. See if we have anything new that came through. And so what I'm seeing is mostly team meetings. We have something related to trauma-informed support. That's helpful. Thank you for sharing that. Finding PD platforms, instructional techniques, continuous training. Very good. Cultural relevance support. Great networking. All right. I think I may have covered all of those that have been added. Thank you all for adding your feedback here. Great. And sometimes it's more or less about continuing education. For example, we'll stay on that slide. For example, academic courses and workshops offered by colleges. You can probably offer professional development organizations like associations and conferences, or with training, skill-based trainings. For example, certificates, certifications, or trades development programs. Mentorship or sponsorship, for example, peer-to-peer support across grantee organizations, or lunch and learn topic discussions, or even with coaching and feedback, like, for example, coaching as a part of a regular performance review process, or facilitating regular debrief and feedback sessions after each training day to review evaluation, feedback, and implement any necessary course corrections. So I want to thank you all for your participation with this Mentimeter question. And we'll move on to our next slide with linguistic and cultural skills. Successful implementation of the Illinois Works Career Apprenticeship Program integrates diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity, or what we call DIVE, with the goal of fostering an environment that allows individuals to feel safe, participate fully, develop professionally, and reach their fullest potential. Embedded in DIVE are linguistic and cultural skills, which should be included in your internal professional development plan. Linguistic and cultural skills are not just about translating material or having bilingual outreach and recruitment staff. It is the ability to understand the nuances of language and the cultural implications of potential participants throughout the pre-apprenticeship life cycle. Linguistic and cultural skills require program staff and instructors to step 1, refrain from judgment. Step 2, clarify understanding. And step 3, seek first to understand. And so to learn additional information regarding program expectations, you can find this on page 185 of your 2026 Grantee Manual. I think we have time for one more Mentimeter question. Let's see. Yes, we can go ahead and try to do this last one. Using Mentimeter, please answer the following question. What are you doing to prepare your staff to respond to linguistic and cultural differences? What are you doing to prepare your staff to respond to linguistic and cultural differences? We'll give people a few seconds to go ahead and put their answers in. Anyone want to give their response? Attend webinars? Okay, great. Are there any other responses? Okay, it doesn't look like we have any responses for this particular question. So what we will do, if you want to add to it, you certainly can add in the chat area, but we are going to continue on for the sake of time so that we remain on our schedule. And Shiva, can we go back to our PowerPoint? Thank you so much. Are there any questions before we move on to the next section of this webinar?
There was one question that popped up in the chat from Simon. And Simon asked, is the annual conference set for October 6th and 7th, or is that still subject to change?
We do not have a definite date, but we do know the month will be in October.
That was the only question in the chat.
Thank you, Olivia. So we are now going to move into section 4, and I'm going to hand this over to my colleague, Edwin.
Thank you, Carly. I appreciate you going over that very helpful, informative information as well. So I'll go over section 4 and part of 10, the grantees data management, section 10, grantees data management. So some objectives will, by the end of this section, you'll be able to articulate the first 3 steps in the data management process, how to collect relevant data for each stage of the pre-apprentice lifecycle, identify your data entry staff, implement quality control measures to ensure data integrity, and how to complete the annual Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship closeout process. So these are the objectives we'll go over today, and it's very key for you to, I mean, all the information we're going over is today, but as we mentioned before, data management is key to ensuring compliance and the whole life cycle and the reimbursement model for the performance-based grant that the pre-apprenticeship program is. So can we move to the next slide, please? All right, so in section 10, grantees data management in the grantee manual, we'll highlight data management process, the type of data that you must collect and report, the role of the Illinois Works Reporting System, IWS, and we'll also go over the importance of accurate record keeping. So next slide, please. So why is data so important? Now, the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program strategically uses data in multiple ways. And why is this important? Well, data are individual pieces of facts, which when analyzed can provide Illinois Works and its grantee with valuable information. So data supports the program outcomes, continuous program improvement, and used for longitudinal study. Now, information is knowledge that can be used to understand program outcomes, uncover key insights and patterns, and contribute to informed decision making. So, the effective use of data begins with a 4-step data management process. All right, so next slide, please. And the next one will be using Mentimeter. So, using the multimedia viewer that you have, um, we'll be utilizing this to answer your question here. So, how is your program currently planning to use data? So, using the Mentimeter, please answer, how is your program currently planning to use the data? And the link for the Mentimeter is in the chat above too as well, in case you're not using the WebEx app. So, how is your program currently using data? Are you using it to because it's required to support program outcomes, program improvement, longitudinal study? Okay, so we got 2 in. So program improvement, excellent. Qualitative analysis, excellent. To track outcomes, program improvement, to track outcomes, to create better outcomes, tracking data for partner, track results, build program capacity. Okay, great. Program improvement seems to be common. Improve our systems structure, monitor progress, projections, evaluation. These are all great things and align to what we will go over today and go in more depth. All right, great. Thank you everyone for participating. Shiba, we can go back to a PowerPoint, please. So the data management process, we'll go over, those 4 items that are on your screen there. So data management is the administrative process of acquiring, validating, and processing data. Now, most data for the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program will be housed in the Illinois Works Reporting System, IWRS. That's what we refer to it in short. Now, the Office of Illinois Works will utilize a 4-step data management process that includes data collection, data entry, quality control, and accurate reporting. Um, Although accurate reporting is the final step in the data management process, in many ways is a culmination of data collection, entry, and quality control efforts taken by staff throughout the entire process. Now, each data point, grantee data, participant data, and in some cases financial data, must be entered into IWRS timely and accurately to allow for live tracking of participant progress and program outcomes. Next slide, please. All right, so the data entry coordinator, we'll go over specifically this role now. Data collection is an established systemic process for accurately collecting data for the purpose of analysis to gain insights. Can you go? Yeah, thank you. Now, the data entry coordinator is accountable for program data entry into the IWRS. Now, the data entry coordinator can identify select staff to assist with entering data into IWRS. These staff members should have appropriate skill set for data entry and must be properly trained the use of IWRS. And although several staff members may be responsible for entering data into IWRS, the data entry coordinator is the one accountable for ensuring the accurate and timely entry and reporting of the program's data to Illinois Works. Okay, great. So now we'll move on to the Mentimeter, please, Shiva and everyone else. So we'll be utilizing Mentimeter again. Now, the question now for in the Mentimeter is, have you identified a data entry coordinator? Have you identified a data entry coordinator? And then it's a yes or no. So yes, we have a DEC. Oh no, we do not yet have a data entry coordinator. All right, so it looks like we have 11, 13, 14 people, 14 people yes, 1 no, we have not identified a data entry coordinator, 16 now. Okay, all right, so, okay, so majority are saying yes. We only have 1 so far that mentioned no. Now, if you have not identified a data entry coordinator, right now is the time to do so. Page 189 of the 2026 Grantee Manual provides a role description for the DEC, Data Entry Coordinator, under staff roles. And in Section 3, staff roles, partners, provider relationships, leverage resources. And your programmatic grant manager during onboarding more than likely should have identified how that's required and giving you more instructions and support on how to proceed with that. If not, please reach out to your programmatic grant manager to assist you more on the data entry coordinator role. You can go back to the PowerPoint, please. Thank you everyone for participating. We greatly appreciate the engagement. It helps us all stay engaged in the presentation today. All right, so the categories of data. So the Illinois Works data will fall into one of the 3 categories. So there's grantee actions. Now, the grantee data includes data regarding your engagement in the development, design, and implementation of the pre-apprenticeship program. Examples include the number of participant cohorts, enrollees, and participants who complete the program. And then we also have participant actions. Now, this participant action allows grantees to monitor participation, progress, and completion to help them take the necessary steps to ensure programs expand opportunity that result in an increase in apprenticeship participation and employment outcomes. Now, examples include applicants, demographics, attendance, academic performance, and progress measures. And lastly, we do have financials. So financial data includes grantees' actual expenditures in comparison to its allocated budget. These data are used to determine if Illinois Works funds are used for activities that are allowable under the grant and leverage resources that are used to support grant activities. As a note, financial data outside of stipend payments and barrier reduction costs is not collected in IWRS. Financial data is submitted using the PFR, which we will discuss later in this training. Next slide, please. All right, so someone did mention the life cycle, and thank you for whoever that was for acknowledging the life cycle and really paying attention throughout the whole presentations that we've had since the beginning of the program year and how this all ties together. So you should be aware of this pre-apprentice life cycle. We've been going over it for the last presentations, and the participant data does follow this pre-apprentice life cycle. Now, Table 25 in the grantee manual that's titled Participant Data Collection through the Pre-Apprenticeship Lifecycle Stages shows that key data will be reported in IWRS at each stage of the life cycle. And again, that's pages 187 through 188 of the 2026 grantee manual. Now, for those accountable for data entry, plan to attend the 4 IWRS session that will be delivered in the next weeks and then next week's IWRS presentation. And then those scheduled IWRS sessions will be available in the partner guide once they have been delivered for you to reference back to. But please ensure your data entry coordinators and those who are responsible, new staff for data entry will be there next week. Or I should say not next week, in a few days. Sorry about that. All right, so next slide, please. All right, so data entry. Data entry is the activity of entering data into a designated computer software application for the purposes of data collection, monitoring, and analysis. Now, while data collection is focused on sources of information, data entry is where grantees demonstrate the progress and that of their participants. So we're excited to provide grantees with a live tracking of their progress through the IWRS. This tool can identify early program successes as well as performing gaps so you can be quickly and efficiently closed. Now, it's also important to note that the outcomes and performance-based payments are based on the data entered in IWRS. The Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program cannot use any other information or data that is not entered in IWRS to determine program compliance and performance-based payments. Now, for these reasons, accurate and up-to-date data collection is essential for our program. Next slide, please. Now, along with data entry, quality control is key. Now, quality control is a process of regularly reviewing the data collected and entered in IWRS for accuracy. Accurate data collection and entry is essential to maintaining the integrity of your Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. Now, in the grantee manual, page 90, there's a table titled Data Quality Assurance. This table identifies data quality characteristics as well as examples for measuring your program's ability to demonstrate data quality control. So it's key to have data quality control as well. because it's not a matter of just entering the data into IWRS, it's making sure that the data is accurate and correct as best as possible. Next slide, please. Okay, so we do have a data verification checklist and a data DQM, that's data quality management plan. So the new 2026 manual includes Exhibit 16 data verification checklist. Grantees can utilize this checklist as part of your data quality management plan. Now, this tool offers a checklist of all items that must be entered or uploaded to IWRS at each single stage of the pre-apprentice lifecycle. Now, grantees would best utilize this tool on a per participant basis as the participants progress through each stage all the way from the beginning and intake through the end at follow-up. Now, in addition to Exhibit 16, the data verification checklist, the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program does require grantees to complete Template 23 Sample Data Quality Management Plan. This plan is completed annually, identifies staff who will be responsible for data entry and verification, and requires grantees to outline a timeline for when data will be entered and verified. Now, these plans help grantees think through how participant information will move through the process to increase accuracy of data entry. And your programmatic grant manager should have reached out to your program administrator on completing this data quality management plan. If they have not yet, you will hear about it soon. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so I kind of touched a little bit on, on the quality control and how it ties to accurate reporting. And we'll go a little bit deeper right now on accurate reporting. So the staff at the Center for Workforce Development at SIU, Southern Illinois University, offer resources and ongoing technical assistance to all Illinois Works grantees. Now, grantees are required to have an Illinois workNet profile to utilize the Illinois Works Reporting System, IWRS, for programmatic tracking and reporting. Now, there is no limit on the number of grantee staff that can maintain a profile. However, it is important to remember that with more individuals entering data, there's a higher need for quality control. Now, grantees are advised to have one dedicated person to verify accuracy of data entry on a weekly basis and prior to monthly compliance reviews, who is not the person entering the data. Now, this ensures that the data being entered adheres to quality standards, is entered in real time, and more importantly, that deficiencies in data quality along with missing data are proactively and timely entered. Now, in addition to robust tracking capacities, IWRS offers several reports and two dashboards that will serve as a data source for required reports, which is outlined in Section 11, Finance Records and Reports of the 2026 Grantee Manual. Now, the dashboards available in IWRS are discussed more in detail in Section 12 of the Grantee Manual. Section 12 is using data for program management and continuous program improvement. And more detailed descriptions of this tool and reporting requirements will be discussed in upcoming IWRS sessions. Next slide, please. Okay, so we'll talk about the closeout process. So the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program closeout process is an annual process that is led by your programmatic grant managers to verify the accuracy and completeness of participant data entered in IWRS. Now, the process begins usually in the fall of each grant year and continues into the following grant year, culminating in the release of closeout funds for grantee reimbursement. In addition to a monthly compliance process that will verify accurate data entry, the closeout process acts as a second verification by your programmatic grant managers to ensure that data is accurate for all participants entered in IWRS. Closeout also has a financial component that will be discussed in more detail in future section, the next section actually. All right, so next slide, please. All right, so any questions before we proceed to the next section? If not, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay, Edwin, we don't have any new questions in the chat.
Okay, great. So with that, my colleague, Mr. Dan Martinez, will move on to the next section.
All right, thank you, Edwin. All right, so as promised, we're going to be talking about finances, records, and reports. This is section 11 of the 2026 Grantee Manual. We will be ensuring that we're able to look through and understand the reporting and record keeping, understanding how to utilize different tips for file organization, some of the requirements that are that you're held to for maintenance, and complying with GATA, that's the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act requirements, understanding those GATA reports, particularly the periodic financial report, and understanding how the Illinois Works performance payment model was designed and how it applies to grant reimbursement. I think that when we were initially discussing what what options or what topics you would like to discuss, that was definitely one of them. So I look forward to talking to you about these different objectives of this section of the Grantee Manual. This section will set expectations for record keeping and management. We're going to explore how to submit those programmatic and financial reports. Although I will mention, I'll mention this again later, we will be holding a specific training workshop on submitting periodic performance and financial reports. We're going to talk about the appropriate use of Illinois Works funds as it relates to expenditures, and we'll discuss procurement and budget modifications as well. So the first thing to know, we're going to discuss reporting versus record keeping, and on the next slide here, and that the Illinois General Assembly had passed the Illinois Works Job Act, and that's what appropriated funds for this program. As such, grantees must comply with all of the state of Illinois reporting requirements. Some of these, again, are statutorily mandated. So typically, and Edwin had just discussed some of the data entry into IWRS, but one or more staff members are typically accountable for data entry, but they'll also be accountable for reporting and record keeping. Record keeping is the process of ensuring that the pre-apprenticeship program records are maintained, including all the required activities, the transactions, events that go into IWRS. Reporting is the process of organizing those records into specific, topics, summaries, and used to monitor the program and determine if the goals have been achieved. So accurate record keeping is a prerequisite for effective reporting. And we certainly want to present this information in a very positive thinking manner, very upbeat manner. But I would be doing everyone a disservice if I didn't mention here that there are consequences for inaccurate record keeping and reporting. First of all, this is a performance-based grant. So, all of the data entry that Edwin was just describing in IWRS is necessary in order to hit those performance measures. In addition, it's a reimbursement-based grant, right? So if you don't have the proper record keeping and reporting of your expenditures, then you can't be reimbursed for those things. And then we get into the topic of requirements and audits and maintaining your standing within the state of Illinois' grant system. And so, one example is attendance rosters, right? Those are critically important. We have guidance in our grantee manual. We have an attendance roster that organizations are required to use, and it is your responsibility to understand how to fill those out correctly. We've had organizations that have had to return money to the state because they failed to properly document and retain some of those attendance roster records. So this is something that we really want. We're looking forward to sharing, this information and letting you know the requirements. But I also want you to kind of understand the importance and the gravity behind all of it. So talking about that, record keeping. On the next slide, we have a couple bullet points here where we, discuss the importance of effective record keeping and the reporting because it impacts program planning, program operations, program evaluation. It's necessary for continuous improvement, for knowledge transfer. There's a lot of legal issues that can surround it. It's part of your risk management. So all of these things very important as part of your record keeping. Participant records and files. So a record is a collection of the data items and information, right? So the file is then a collection of those records with one or more common properties. And in this case, on the next slide here, we're talking about participant files. So participant files should be organized and structured to facilitate compliance with the general requirements of the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program. And grantees are required to keep all participant records and files for at least 3 years following the pre-apprenticeship program completion, or as being a grantee, right? So make sure that you are retaining those files even after you scan and upload them into IWRS. That you must maintain your records, whether that's, again, the participant files for each individual, you'll have a set of paper files for, documents that they've provided to you. The attendance rosters I mentioned, that's based on, say, a cohort. So you might have cohort level files. Again, to the cohort level files, every training module that we have, requires a post assessment, and sometimes they're observational, so you'll need to have those records from the instructor observing the hands-on use of tools or safety equipment. Sometimes they're online. I know a lot of the the NCCR courses have online assessments, so those need to be documented and retained. A lot of times you'll have the post-assessment score, though, printed out. Then that needs to be retained in a participant file. One exception is the onboarding. That's the only one that can be considered pass-fail. But even then, the reason that what satisfies that post-assessment requirement is, did the participant turn in the documentation that's required? Did they turn in the commitment agreement? Did they turn in their orientation career assessment? Did they turn in their wraparound service assessment? So, all of these things need to be kept in the participant files. So the only exception I should mention to all of this is a social security number. Okay, so whether it's part of your organization's, workforce onboarding, that you obtain a copy of a social security card, or just capture the number. And I know in IWRS you can enter a social security number, and that does help us track the participants. As part of our longitudinal study, we only retain the last 4 digits. And it's very important that in Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program files, you do not retain the image of the social security card or documents that have that. In fact, if you have a social security number written on a document that you upload into IWRS, or maybe you took an image of it along with their driver's license and uploaded that into IWRS, we will have to delete that. And then you will be required to re-upload a version of the document without the social security card or social security number. So please keep that in mind. So we do have in the grantee manual, Exhibit 7, it's a participant file checklist. It provides a list of required documents or records that you need to include in that participant file. So that's available in the appendix of the grantee manual. I mentioned Illinois Works financial reports. So these include the periodic performance report, This is a standard uniform statewide performance progress report used by all state agencies to collect performance information from recipients of state grant awards. Unless statutorily exempt, as documented in the Catalog of State Financial Assistance and the Uniform Grant Agreement, all grant awards are subject to periodic performance reporting, and certainly that's the case for all Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship programs. And specific directions on how to complete the PPR will be provided from your financial grant managers. I mentioned that we will be holding trainings on that. We will provide technical assistance on that. We actually provided some initial training to all of the program administrators in our January onboarding meeting in Naperville. So we will definitely cover that. The short answer to all of that, of course, is that the periodic performance report designates IWRS, the Illinois Works Reporting System, as the alternative database. So it actually makes that a very simple and straightforward report to issue. We, as part of the pre-apprenticeship program, the PPR is due on a quarterly basis, and that will be outlined in your grant agreement. The PFR, that's the periodic financial report, again, a standard uniform statewide financial reporting format used by all state agencies. That then provides our office and the state with a list of your expenses as they apply to the grant agreement. Specific directions on how to complete the PFR, including the ledger and supporting documents, will be supplied by your financial grant manager. Again, we will be hosting a workshop on that, and we will provide technical assistance. And again, that was covered in detail in the administrators meeting back in January. One important item to note is that the PPRs and the PFRs, while they can be prepared by the accounting staff or program staff, they must be signed by your grantee's authorized signatory. Sometimes the authorized signatory can issue a special form and create designees, but those must be signed and dated by the authorized signatory. The PFR, unlike the PPR is due quarterly. The PFR will be due on a monthly basis, and typically 30 days after the end of each month. And that will be part of your deliverable schedule that you will receive with your grant agreement. Program administrators were introduced to these GATA reports through the 2026 administrators orientation, and you can find more information in this grantee manual on pages 199 through 212. Again, these are GATA-ish required reports, and so it goes well beyond our office and the pre-apprenticeship program. But we do have information on them that you can access through the GATA resource website. The link to the GATA resource website will be provided for you in the chat, so you can always view additional information there as well. All right, next we have the grantees, financial management system. We need to talk about that. It must be structured so that you are able to provide accurate and current and complete disclosure of financial results of the project that's being funded under this grant program. So that's something that everyone should have acknowledged during their survey that we conducted for what we call a risk assessment initially, and then the ledger that I mentioned that you're going to have to provide with your PFR. Is a detailed transaction of every expense that you incurred that you're charging to the grant. Your ledger must support the costs as reported to the department, and it must align with your approved budget. So everything ties together, and it's part of the financial grant manager's job to make sure that all those expenses are reported and appropriate to the grant. And then additional information can be found on how to complete that PFR in the GATA website. and on the Illinois Works Partner Guide resource page. And then if you have specific questions, please reach out to one of the Illinois Works financial grant managers. So I mentioned appropriate use of funds. That's one of the responsibilities of the financial grant managers, to ensure that everything on that ledger, everything that's reported in the PFR, is appropriate to the grant. With any grant funding, funds must be used for the purpose of implementing the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. So specific allowable grant costs were set forth in the NOFO that you had applied to, and certainly in these Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program rules in the Grantee manual. Allowable costs include expenditures, and they all have to comply with 2 CFR 200. And again, we're talking about the 2026 Grantee Manual, so more information is available, I believe, starting on page 224 in that Grantee Manual. And as always, can't say this enough, for specific expenditure questions before your organization spends that money, if you have a question, contact your grant managers. All Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program grants, in their first year of the grant, when they were initially offered the grant, have the ability to request an advance. Capital advances generally fall, they're generally about 8% of the overall grant award. Certain specific grantees in certain specific programs for the Office of Illinois Works are able to request a higher grant award if they're in the accelerator program. Advance requests must be submitted through formal letters on organizational letterhead. And for this year, all advance requests have already been submitted. So we've covered that. I mentioned at the beginning of this section that we would discuss budget modifications. So budget modifications must be approved by your programmatic grant manager, your grant manager. From there, they go through approvals with your financial grant manager and then the deputy director in order for them to begin being processed through the state's e-grant system. Budget modifications typically take 4 to 6 weeks once those approvals have been completed. And when you're modifying your budget, once that modification goes into process through that e-grant system, expense reimbursements cannot be paid out until that 4 to 6 week process has been completed. So we will work with you to ensure that any budget modifications that are necessary are done within the proper time frames and windows of the calendar year. Certainly, we want to make sure that we're not overlapping with the state's fiscal shutdown, which happens at the end of the state's fiscal year. So starting around mid-June, the state cuts off, financial transactions as they close the year and then begin the next year. And typically we don't resume again until about mid-August. So it's typically about a 2-month shutdown for us. We want to make sure that everyone understands the appropriate use of funds and these budget modifications. And some of this information was already provided to program administrators during the administrator orientation meeting in January. But more guidance can be found on pages 204 and 205 of the Grantee Manual. So as you can see on the screen, next question with Mentimeter: who has previously managed a performance-based grant? Because we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So if you'd like to, vote, yes, I have, no, I have not. This transition will be new for many of you that have not previously worked with an Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program grant. Again, ours is slightly different, even from those that may have a little bit of experience with a performance-based grant, but it's good to see. It looks like we're running about, what is that? Oh, it's getting closer to 50-50. I was going to say it's about 30 to 60, but yeah, there we go. About 50-50 exactly. All right, so let's talk about that. So certainly the Office of Illinois Works is highly invested in your success, And we want to make sure that you are comfortable with that performance-based model. It's been structured to leverage accountability as a component of this performance-based model, while also creating a structure that provides additional funding opportunities. So, all right, it looks like everyone has had a chance to vote. We have about 20 of the 50 folks on the call that have voted, and just over half of you have experience with a performance-based grant. So let's talk about that right now. The payment model that the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program uses. I will mention that this was covered in depth in one of the NOFO technical assistance sessions. So this was made aware to all the grantees prior to you even applying for the NOFO. But we want to make sure everyone is fully understanding how this operates. The performance-based payment model utilized by Illinois Works is rooted in the belief that the grant funding should be based on the organization's tangible impacts to the community. So this is a combination of performance-based and reimbursement models. That means that the metrics, particularly through IWRS, dictate the amount available for reimbursement. And that kind of acts as almost a limiting factor based on your performance. And then in addition to that, grantees must still submit allowable expenses because it is a reimbursement-based grant. And so the programmatic grant managers will work with those IWRS metrics, and the financial grant managers will work with your allowable expenses. So a few key aspects of this, to know. First is this allows you to exceed metrics at times through that the IWRS metrics and the performance basis. So you can actually earn funding beyond your initial grant award, particularly within any given a metric. Very often we see grantees earning more than what they were targeted for enrollment, and then maybe hitting their target or being a little bit less on their completion metrics, but that balances itself out and they can continue to receive the full amount of their grant award. We also need to stress the importance of that on the next screen here, Shiva. The importance of the live real-time reporting that occurs in the Illinois Works reporting system. The fact that IWRS is, a real-time reporting system allows our office to monitor compliance on a monthly basis. And again, that's the limiting factor. That's what allows Illinois Works to determine whether they can recommend to DCO that those financial disbursements or cash disbursements are made to reimburse grantees for their expenses. And then it's very important to understand that grantees have the right to appeal to the Office of Illinois Works if they believe they missed some of their outcome metrics to your programmatic grant manager. You can submit those appeals if you believe something occurred outside of your control. The gold standard example there is if you bring in a participant into your cohort, you're working with them right off the bat, they tell you that they're interested in joining this registered apprenticeship program, and you, even in the second week or first week or third week of the program, you say, oh, look, there, that particular registered apprenticeship program is open and they're accepting applications. Let's go ahead and get your application submitted. And you do that, and they immediately get in and are offered a position before your pre-apprenticeship program even ends. In that case, them moving on to that prohibits you from completing and graduating that individual, but it actually fulfilled our overall goal of that person becoming an apprentice in a construction-based U.S. DOL registered apprenticeship program. So that would be an example of an area in which you could submit an appeal. We've been talking about these IWRS metrics, these funding benchmarks, right? This is what makes up the performance basis on the next slide here of your grant. So there are 4 funding benchmarks: enrollment, completion, transition, and then IWRS closeout reports. So each of these are connected to a percentage of the overall grant award. Again, this is because it's a performance-based model, not an outcome-based model, or that organizations can receive reimbursement funds that are related to their benchmarks while continuing to work toward their goal. So in other words, in some performance-based programs, not ours, you would really have to wait to the very end to see, well, what was the ultimate outcome? But ours being performance-based, we've broken these down into different performance benchmarks. And so as you go through your cohort, we can release these funding maximums. And, in addition, beyond your initial grant award, if you exceed these funding benchmarks, you can exceed the metrics based on your per participant allotment, which we'll discuss in just a moment. And the NOFO technical assistance session, you can still view that. You can also see some of this information in the grantee manual starting on page 206. So we really want you to have access to all the information that you might require to understand how these work. But again, the key component here is that this is the performance side of it. And then after that, you still must submit allowable expenses to your financial grant manager for reimbursement. So let's see how these different metrics are broken down into each of the program's goals. So initially, each grant funding is based on the number of enrolled participants, and we break down the overall funding mechanism for a grant into those four metrics that I discussed. I mentioned enrollment, completion, transition, and then the closeout. So enrollment is worth, as you can see here, 25% of the total grant award. Completion will be worth 30% of your total grant award. Transition will be worth 35% of the total grant award. And then the closeout reports will be worth the remaining 10%, which brings you to the 100% of your grant award. The percentage of funding related to each benchmark is the maximum corresponding funding amount that could be reimbursed if you meet all of the outcome metrics by the end of the grant agreement term. Additional funding, as I mentioned a couple times here, can be made available if you exceed metrics based on your per participant allotment. And we're going to look at what that per participant allotment, how that truly works in just a slide here or two. It's important to note that you cannot exceed your overall grant award, though, without a budget modification. So even though you might exceed the enrollment allotment, if you were 100% for completion, transition, and closeout, you still are at 100%. You can't go over that 100% unless your expenses dictate that, and then we provide a budget modification. It's also important to know that transitions are sometimes based on they're based on the documentation that you submit into IWRS. And for the primary transition, that's really based on a two-step verification process. So we have preliminary verification, which is awarded at half, 50% of that primary transition. And that's proof of enrollment into a USDOL registered apprenticeship program. And then the other 50% is what we call a primary transition final verification. And that's proof that the individual enrolled and began their apprenticeship in the USDOL registered apprenticeship program. So we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But one other thing I want to point out before we move from this slide is that completion and transition together represent 65% of the grant award, right? So that's really putting a focus on those key components, right? We're not one of those programs where we're looking to fill seats, and that's really what the enrollment and recruitment side of things are. No, when we're looking at performance-based funding, we really want to see the the individuals who go completely through the program, graduate, and then transition into that US DOL registered apprenticeship program. Again, I want to highlight that the capital advances, they're only available, I mentioned those, they're only available during the first year of a grant award. So, they can be, they do not need to be repaid until the grant is closed, and that might be after 1 year, after 2 years, or after 3 years. But it's only during that initial year can that initial advance be placed. All right, so let's take a look at the next slide. I think that shows, I mentioned that there's an accelerator program. Because of the size of the advance of the accelerator program, it actually modifies some of the other benchmarks. So enrollment, instead of being at 25%, is worth 21%. Completion becomes worth 26, and transition becomes worth 31. And then the closeout becomes worth 22% because it contains that 20% advance within it. And we want to make sure that grantees really are able to attain that funding benchmark. And closeout is much more attainable to grantees because that's based on your reporting, your accurate reporting in IWRS. It's essentially saying that everything in IWRS that needs to be there is there, and it's accurate, and it was done as required. So that's why the closeout report contains the advance, because it's something that is completely within the grantee's control to attain. All right, so let's look at that per participant allotment. I've mentioned it a couple of times, and I just want to explain how that works. So on the next slide, you'll see we have an example here of an enrollment benchmark amount. So in this case, you might think, okay, if the typical example, I had said that an enrollment benchmark or metric was worth 25% of the overall grant award. So in this case, we would have to assume it's a $400,000 grant award. That means enrollment is worth 25% of the total, so $100,000. And in this case, we're looking at this hypothetical case, we're looking at having 25 participants. So we would take that enrollment amount, divide it by the number of the goal of 25 enrollees, and that means we come to a $4,000 per participant allotment. So what that number means is that when your grant manager performs monthly compliance and they go through IWRS and they verify the enrollment for one participant, that will then move $4,000 into your reimbursement maximum. If they verify 2 individuals, it would move $8,000 into your reimbursement maximum. Again, you're not paid that money. Remember the very first thing I said, that performance-based element is a reimbursement maximum. You're paid based on the lesser amount of that or your actual expenses. So these are extremely important to make sure you're hitting those per participant allotments for each of the metrics: enrollment, completion, and transition. Assuming you enroll all 25 of those participants, that would move $100,000 into that reimbursement maximum. If you enroll 26, it would move $104,000. And that's what we talked about in terms of the being able to exceed your metrics and have that performance reimbursement maximum actually be exceeded. So I mentioned before that we've explained this on several different times. This information is really based on the grant manager's monthly compliance review. Program administrators receive guidance on this performance-based payment model in the 2026 Program Administrators Orientation. And again, detailed guidance is available in the grantee manual. But if you have further questions, you can always reach out to your grant manager. All right, on the next slide, we want to talk about fund disbursement. Because there are two, mechanisms there. So we want to make sure you understand the process. On the expense side of things, you'll submit your expenses through your PFR, that's the periodic financial report, on a monthly basis. PFRs are due 30 days after the end of the month for that reporting period. And you can refer to the PFR section in the grantee manual for more information there. But PFRs that have been successfully submitted will be reviewed by your financial grant manager.
Oh, he's talking about the payment schedule now.
Hi, Simone and Perkins.
They
Do you have a question?
Okay.
Or, yeah, thank you. Mute your line. There you go. So the grant manager, financial grant manager, will review your PFR and your legend, your ledger and your supporting documentations, and certify those allowable expenses. They will then compare that amount to the maximum reimbursement that was supplied by your programmatic grant manager as part of your monthly programmatic compliance. And if that amount is equal or less than those two amounts are equal, then you'll receive a cash disbursement for the certified expenses. If the remax is lower, then you'll receive that lower amount. So it's always the lesser of the two. It's important to understand that in each individual phase, we're not determining the amount available for reimbursement, particularly the programmatic grant managers. When they operate compliance and they provide you with your reimbursement maximum, and they say, we verified 25 enrollments, and in that hypothetical case, right, that meant at $4,000 per participant allotment, $100,000. You are not reimbursed $100,000. The programmatic grant managers do not determine that reimbursement. It's only then based on your financial grant manager's review of expenditures that it triggers a disbursement. All right, so let's take a little bit more of a look then into that reimbursement maximum and the performance-based payment model. So we have a slide here. It's a little bit of an eye chart. This is available in the grantee manual for you to look at it a little bit more thoroughly. But this is a very typical example where a grantee has requested 50, an enrollment goal of 50 individuals. That sets their grant award at $550,000. That enrollment goal also then sets the completion goal, because it's 85% of the enrollment goal. And it also sets the primary transition goal, because that's 70% of the enrollment goal. It's not looking at your completion goal, it's still looking at that enrollment goal. So that enrollment goal really, that sets everything. It sets the grant award amount, and it sets the completion and transition goals. You can see here, again, enrollment is worth 25% of the $550,000 grant award. So in that fourth column, you can see the enrollment is then worth $137,500. Because it's based on 50 people, that translates into a per participant allotment of $2,750. This particular hypothetical example, through the course of the year, the grantee enrolled 52 people. So the actual funding that was available, it says paid out, but they're really talking about the reimbursement maximum. It's not truly paid out until we look at the expenses and certify those expenses. That comes to $143,000. So it exceeded the actual enrollment goal of $137,500. And then, you can go on and on. I won't go through each level of this, but this kind of gives you a flavor of where your reimbursement maximum would be held. Okay. So let's move on to, or go back to those compliance reviews, because that's really how we're determining those. I'm sorry, can you move the slide forward? I didn't mean go back in slides. I meant, just go back to discussing. let's see. Yeah, here we are. All right. So at the end of each month, your Illinois Works grant manager will check your grantee's outcome metrics and based on your organization's progress to the goals. And they provide then the reimbursement maximum, which is the maximum amount available for reimbursement to the financial grant managers. We will review the monthly compliance report in a little bit more detail later in this session today. Illinois Works will conduct monthly compliance reviews to ensure that grantees are adhering to the program expectations according to the grant agreement. Those are based, the dates of those are based on your work plan. So your work plan is an extremely important document. Many of you have met with your grant managers to discuss that work plan to get it approved. And so once that's approved, that cannot be changed until you submit a request for modification of in advance of any changes. And it's extremely important to do so because again, your compliance reports are held to that standard. And of course, you can see the 2026 grantee manual for additional guidance on those compliance reports. During this monitoring process, the grant manager will, they view all of the data from IWRS, the Illinois Works reporting system, and they determine your progress toward each of those goals, the enrollment goal, the completion goal, and the transition goal. Based on the data that's entered into IWRS, in addition to that reimbursement maximum, you're assigned a progress score, a compliance score, based on your progress towards those goals. So we look at things like, an excellent progress. That's when a grantee is making the progress they're making exceeds the outcomes that we had targeted in those goals, and so that's when you're over 100%. Good progress is when you're making significant progress, meaning that you're between 76 to 100% of your goals. Inadequate progress is when you've dropped down and now you're only at 50% to 75% attainment of your goals. And poor progress would be then defined when a grantee is meeting less than 50% of their required outcome goals. These are always based on the approved timeline of your work plan. So the overall compliance rating that's, you'll be provided on a monthly basis is determined by the data in IWRS. One of the things you hear us say very often is that if it's not in IWRS, it didn't happen. So it's extremely important to not only be performing on the ground in the classroom and doing the things that you're supposed to do, but that has to be reported then into IWRS in order for it to have an impact on your performance rating. Determining which metrics are reviewed each month. Again, it's based on the calendar of your work plan. So it's really important to adhere to that. The monthly progress report provides you as the grantee with a reimbursement maximum, and that is only really a snapshot of what is in IWRS. You'll see different compliance reports than if you go to the next screen, Shiva. This one that we have displayed here was what we used in 2025. We're adjusting it slightly for 2026. We actually have a workshop that we will be presenting, I think, in March on the new compliance reports that IWRS will be providing to you. But you'll receive an overall score like the one you see here. On the next slide, you'll see the payment worksheet. Again, it'll look slightly different than the one you see here, but it'll be produced by IWRS, and it's a monthly report that outlines the number of enrollments, completions, transitions, both primary transitions and alternative construction transitions, and secondary transitions that you have your grant manager has verified. And this report provides grantees with a detailed outline of custom performance-based funding for your reimbursement maximum. So again, this is all captured in section 11. I know we are going through a lot of information here. This is all captured in section 11 of the grantee manual. So I'm going to pause here because I know I've gone through quite a bit of information. Are there any questions that anyone has?
So Dan, yeah, there are quite a few questions. I'm not sure how much time we have to go through all of them, and maybe we can answer them in the chat. But starting with the very first one from Melissa Duff Brown, are the 1099s connected stipends uploaded to IWRS, or will it remain in the internal company file connected for stipend payments?
1099s are retained in your program's files. No, we don't request your 1099s.
Okay, great. And here's another question from a safe place. Are we able to exceed our metrics if we are in an accelerated program, or do we stick to a metric expectations? Will exceeding metrics help us with receiving additional funding, or are we just allotted what we are given for the program?
So let me go back to that 1099 question. Again, I just want to be clear. We do not request that you send them to us. We don't request that you upload them into IWRS. If you if we do request an on-site monitoring, we may ask to review those 1099s. But again, they're retained at your facility, not within ours. Regarding the metrics, yes. So one of the things that I mentioned was that you know, we have say a completion goal, and as an accelerator grantee, your completion goal might be 21 people. I'm not sure what it is, but you know, and you had maybe a cohort of 25 people. Well, if you're extremely successful, and this is kind of rare, but let's say nobody drops out and you graduate all 25 of those individuals, you've exceeded your goal, right? So yes, anyone can exceed metrics. And again, it's not that you receive additional funding. Your reimbursement maximum would exceed that that goal for completions. And that does help you overall because again, you're paid the lesser amount of your reimbursement maximum or your actual expenses.
Okay. We do have one more person who has a question. If a grantee enrolls, completes, and transitions more participants than planned, would that grantee receive more granted funds or granted amount?
I can't stress this enough. Enrollment, completion, transition, whether you exceed your you know, expectations, your metrics, whether you hit your goals exactly or whether you're lower, you do not receive that funding. That goes to the reimbursement maximum. That is simply a measure that then the financial grant manager would look at your actual expenses and you're paid on that. All right. So yes, when you exceed your expectations, it does increase your reimbursement maximum, but you do not receive those funds directly.
Okay. So
All
the
right.
last part of that is there a maximum number of participants a grantee can enroll?
Yes. I believe the grantee manual says you can have no more than 30 participants in a cohort for a track 2 or track 1 or track 2 grantee. I'm not sure what the track 3, the accelerator program grantees are held to and how that operates, but I think it might be, well, I don't want to guess. So if you have a question on that, reach out to your programmatic grant manager or look in the grantee manual.
Okay, Dan, thank you for that.
Thank you. All right, should have a next slide. So in terms of monthly reimbursements, we talk about the participant allotment for the enrollment and completion. That's really where your programmatic grant manager is verifying those enrollments and verifying those completions and multiplying it by that per participant allotment. For transitions, the per participant allotment is obviously it's based on your progress towards a transition, And I mentioned that in some cases, there's a two-step verification process for primary transitions. Preliminary being, did the person apply to a USDL registered apprenticeship program? And that's awarded at 50% of the overall primary transition. And then when they actually enroll and enter the registered apprenticeship program, they receive the remaining 50% of that primary transition per participant allotment. The next type of transition is an alternative construction transition, which have a value of 70% of the primary transition per participant allotment. So this is when a person does not go into a USDOL registered apprenticeship program, but instead secures permanent full-time employment in the construction industry or with the utilities or other construction related work. So again, it's essentially that they're going to work in the construction industry right away rather than going through a DOL registered apprenticeship program. And then the final type of transition is a secondary transition. Those have a value of 50% of the primary transition per participant allotment. These are reserved for people who essentially have gone through the pre-apprenticeship program, they graduated, and then typically they're saying, well, maybe construction is not for me. I thought it was. So they secure permanent full-time employment in something other than construction or the trades. Possibly they enroll in a college or university or some other advanced training program. So those would all be considered secondary transitions. I think we talk about the verification process for those a little bit later in this webinar. So one last thing, the final benchmark related to closeout, as I mentioned, those are not a per participant allotment, but rather that's based on your completion of the closeout reports and finalizing data entry into IWRS. Performance-based payment appeals. I mentioned an example before about an instance where circumstances arise where an outcome metric is impacted by circumstances outside of the control of the grantee. Typically, they're related to individual participant outcomes. So we do have in Exhibit 14 a performance-based payment appeal form. Those appeal forms can have up to 3 individual participant appeals per form, and those are filled out and sent to your grant manager whenever you have an instance of that. All relevant information, including documentation, should be submitted along with those appeal forms. And if approved, then the outcome metric and related reimbursement will be added to your reimbursement maximum, and they'll be part of your compliance reviews. If there's a circumstance in which an entire cohort is impacted by circumstances, it's not an individual circumstance, then a formal appeal should be submitted on your letterhead, and that's submitted to the deputy director, and it goes through, of course, your grant manager, and then we will view that appeal for the entire cohort. So again, that exhibit is Exhibit 14, and it's in the appendix of the grantee manual. So any questions before we proceed to, I think we're taking a break at this point, actually. So.
Well, actually, we do have a question or two in the chat, and we're going to proceed until section 6 and take our break. Can we receive credit for alternate transitions?
So yes, I mentioned alternative transitions as one of the alternative, they're called alternative construction transitions. And they have a value of about 70% of the primary transition allotment.
Okay, then maybe you've already answered. There's part 2 to that question. Or will this be marked as incomplete in the IWR system?
Yeah, I think maybe you're not understanding what an alternative transition is. It's after a person graduates and then goes to from the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, then goes into permanent full-time employment in construction or utilities. So definitely take a look at the grantee manual, and then if you have a question, follow up with your grant manager.
Okay, thank you, Dan. There are no other questions.
All right, sounds good. Then I will turn it on over for section 6.
Okay, that's me. So section 6, or modular 6, section 12 is using data for project management and continuous improvement. The objectives of this section are to describe the Illinois Works Continuous Program Improvement Model, to utilize the Program Improvement Plan template to execute continuous improvement for your program, to apply each step in the performance management process, to identify different approaches for pre-apprenticeship program evaluation, and to ensure all participants take the participant satisfaction survey and learn how to utilize the results of the survey to strengthen your program. Are there any questions before we move on and begin our discussion?
You're free to go.
Okay, so no questions. Let's go ahead and take a look at Section 12 of the 2026 Grantee Manual. Next slide. So you're all familiar with this graphic at this point. Grantees are accountable for program management and continuous improvement. Program management is the process of directing and overseeing two or more related activities that have the same aim with the goal of compliance with program expectations, improving performance, and ensuring outcomes are met. Effective program management often includes a continuous improvement process throughout the entire pre-apprentice life cycle. Continuous program improvement is the ongoing assessment of performance outcomes with the goal of identifying opportunities for incremental and innovative enhancements during each phase of the life cycle. Next slide. Continuous program improvement is an ongoing effort to improve services and program delivery. This is not punitive nor corrective. It is about ongoing improvement. Continuous program improvements challenge grantees to respond to the question, how can we be even better? You are required to execute a program improvement plan to communicate how service delivery practices can be improved for optimal program performance. Exhibit 9, Performance Improvement Plan, is available in the appendix of the 2026 Grantee Manual. So let's move to Mentimeter. Using Mentimeter, please answer the following question. How has your program previously used continuous program improvement models? What have you done previously? I know it takes a few minutes or a few seconds for things to start to pop up. So how has your program previously used continuous program improvement models? Adaptation to feedback. Feedback is critically important, absolutely. What else? What else have you all previously used? Use technology, surveys, there's open communication, consistent contact, more use of technology, data analysis. We believe in data analysis here. Success metrics, yes. Student post-assessments, a critical part of this program. Member feedback, historical data. What else? Instructor evaluations, absolutely. More surveys, member feedback, site visits, yes. We'd love to do more site visits. Let's see here. Okay. Improving modulars. I don't want to miss anything. Member feedback, regular review of the program, database management. Those are fantastic. Keep them coming. In the meantime, Shiva, we're going to move away from Mentimeter and move back to the presentation. Thank you all for your participation. That was fantastic. So the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Continuous Program Improvement Model is designed to promote improvements to service delivery through program performance. Program performance is the degree to which grantees meet their objectives and achieve their goals. Program performance does not just consider what grantees accomplish, but how it is accomplished. And one of those ways that program performance is accomplished is through your compliance with the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program expectations. There's measuring outcomes. Program performance is determined by measuring outcomes, which is a systemic way of assessing if programs have achieved their goals through the collection and analysis of data. There's benchmarking against program goals. Continuous program improvement requires grantees to identify points within the program when actual performance is measured against performance goals, which is also known as benchmarking. There's brainstorming opportunities for improvement. One way that you can take advantage of those opportunities is to facilitate group discussions to search for new and innovative strategies to improve performance. Additional information regarding brainstorming strategies for improvement start on page 218 of the 2026 Grantee Manual. And then there is implementing new strategies. Once the leadership team has identified a new strategy to help close a performance gap, then it's time to move into action. Those new strategies must be put into action. Okay. We're going to move on and talk about performance gaps. Next slide, please. Performance gaps. Okay, grantees can benchmark their performance using a dashboard. There's the programmatic dashboard and also a follow-up dashboard. For information on accessing those dashboards and other relevant reports, you may refer back to maybe some of our previous IWRS sessions, or of course, there will be more information about the dashboards when we see you in DeKalb on Wednesday. Benchmarking dashboards allow grantees to visually see the comparative data between actual performance and performance goals, exposing any performance gaps. Performance gaps are the difference between the program goal and the actual program performance. Next slide, please. The programmatic dashboard allows grantees to quickly identify key programmatic information, including red flags. That's when total participants have absences. Per cohort participants have absences. Per cohort participants have failed post-assessments, and then total past due follow-up dates have passed. There's intake. Total individuals with inquiry status. Are they closed, cold, warm, or hot? Per cohort participants enrolled. Total participants not enrolled. Did they decline or were they not selected? And also the total participants who you took into your program. Program engagement. Program engagement gauges the total number of active participants. That may include total participants with a training service, participants with an open training service that is past due for attendance entry, total participants with wraparound services, total participants with student support services, total participants with transition services, or it could include participants with a transition service open for more than 6 months. Earned credentials look at the total participants who have not earned a credential of any type. Total participants per cohort that have earned an NCCER, Trades Future MC3, or ICCB certification. When we looked at earned credentials, we're looking at which participants have earned an OSHA 10 construction certification and the First Aid CPR certification. We look at total participants per cohort who have earned a full program certificate. Completion information. Completion information includes total participants per cohort with incomplete status. We look at total participants per cohort who have successfully completed the program, and also total participants per cohort who have unsuccessfully completed the program. Pre-apprenticeship program completion and transition services. We look at a ton of things under program completion and transition services. Some things we consider: total successfully completed participants with an open transition service, total per cohort participants who successfully completed and received the transition service, total per cohort participants who are hired by an employer and enrolled in a registered apprenticeship program. We talked just a little minute ago about alternative constructions. So we look at the total per cohort participants who achieved an alternative construction transition, and that is Participants who have completed the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program and perhaps did not enter a DOL registered apprenticeship program, but were employed on a permanent full-time basis in the construction industry. And also there are secondary transitions, which we take a look at. And secondary transitions may include opening a small business or a participant enrolling in an advanced construction training program. Last but not least, we have provider and employer-sponsor relationships. We look at the total number of union apprenticeship relationships you've built, the total number of contractors and subcontractor relationships, and also the total number of non-union apprenticeship relationships that you, our grantees, have built. You can reference Table 30, IWRS dashboard sections, programmatic and participant data on page 216 of the 2026 Grantee Manual for additional information. Let's look at the follow-up dashboard. The follow-up dashboard focuses on follow-up and tracking beyond participants' tenure in the program. In this section of the dashboard, we look at the post-program active tracking. We look at total alumni not in the construction industry at the time of follow-up, total alumni in the construction industry at the time of follow-up, total alumni on a registered apprenticeship program waiting list, total alumni that have entered a registered apprenticeship program, and the total alumni who are progressing in that program. We also look at the total alumni that withdrew from a registered apprenticeship program and the total alumni who are receiving fringe benefits at the time of follow-up. So those are some of the post-active tracking things that we take a look at. As far as long-term tracking is concerned, total alumni not in the construction industry at the time of follow-up is one of the things that we need to know about. Total alumni in the construction industry at the time of follow-up, some of the things that I just mentioned before, total alumni on a RAP waiting list, alumni of a RAP, alumni who are progressing through a RAP, and the total number of alumni that withdrew from a RAP. We look at the total number of alumni with journey person status. Next slide, please. We talked before about our key outcome metrics, so just as a reminder, grantees develop metrics in accordance with the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program guidelines in Attachment 1 Proposed Work Plan as a part of your application process. For the renewal grantees who are present, some of those metrics may have been negotiated during the onboarding process, which resulted in your current work plan. The two key outcome metrics that are non-negotiable for the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, number one, at least 85% of individuals enrolled will successfully complete the pre-apprenticeship training program. At least 70% of individuals enrolled will be hired or enrolled in a DOL registered apprenticeship program. And as a reminder, these metrics are tracked through IWRS, and you will be able to see how you are progressing through the dashboards that are included in IWRS. Next slide, please. So current standing. Utilizing the dashboards and program reports can help you identify your current standing in specific areas. You may, if you are not meeting expectation status, that means performance outcomes are below expectations at this particular point in time. The current trajectory predicts that program goals will not be met. If you are meeting expectations, performance outcomes are within the margins of the expectations at that particular point in time. The current trajectory predicts that program goals will be met. And then we love to see exceeding expectations. Their performance outcomes are beyond expectations at a specific point in time. The current trajectory predicts the program will exceed goals. All metrics present present potential opportunities for improvement. However, categories that are not meeting expectations should be a top priority. The 2026 Grantee Manual provides a hard copy of Exhibit 8, which is the Grantee Work Plan in the appendix. If you have not completed those and returned those to your grant manager, please do that as soon as possible. Next slide, please. I will go through this slide very quickly. We've talked before about the participant satisfaction survey. So in keeping with our focus on continuous program improvement, both at a grantee and a network level, all pre-apprenticeship participants who remain engaged in the program through the end of instruction will be asked to provide feedback on their program experience through a participant satisfaction survey. Grantees must ensure that 75% of their graduates in each cohort complete the survey. One of the ways that we like to, one of the things we like to recommend is that grantees set aside some time during one of the last days of the training and have those surveys completed as a part of instruction for that particular day. And the link for the 2026 Participant Satisfaction Survey will be shared with you at a later date with your, by your Illinois Works Programmatic Grant Manager. Shiva, will you move on to program evaluation, please? Illinois Works may employ several different approaches to evaluate pre-apprenticeship programs. These evaluation approaches include implementation, outcome, and or impact studies. So implementation studies document program operation or compares it against goals across locations or over time. It describes and analyzes what happened and why, and is generally used to determine if a program is consistent with its goals, design, and other planned aspects. Outcome studies compare individual outcomes against goals across programs or locations or over time. They determine if programs achieve their desired results by tracking participant outcomes after they complete or leave pre-apprenticeship programs. And then there are impact studies. An impact study estimates the difference in individual outcomes attributable to a specific program or policy. It answers the question, is the program the cause of the outcomes? Just as a reminder, all Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program grantees are expected to fully support these studies, so we thank you in advance for your cooperation. The results of these evaluation studies will help inform longer-term outcome and impact studies, which moves us right into the next slide of longitudinal study. Each of the studies will have a longitudinal study design, which means that the study will look at variables over an extended period of time to determine if we prepared pre-apprentices for entry into construction and the building trades, if we increased the entry of women, people of color, and veterans into construction and building trades apprenticeships, and increase the likelihood that women, people of color, and veteran apprentices will complete apprenticeships in construction and the building trades. These studies also support improvement plans. This is a critical component of the continuous improvement philosophy of Illinois Works. The data from your follow-up activities will also support these evaluation studies. Your timely and accurate follow-up during that period will be critical to the success of the Illinois Works longitudinal study. All right, I think we have reached the end of my section. Are there any questions?
So Monica, we do have one question just before we go to break, and that is from Robert. And the question is, the report that was sent out last December was great. Is there a webinar to review the 2024-25 Illinois Works Satisfaction Survey with grantees?
Hey, Robert, hi. You know, if I recall correctly, the short answer is no. There's not presently a webinar to review the survey results, but if I recall correctly, Deputy Director Ruano did review some of the satisfaction survey results, a broad stroke of the results during the, somebody tell me, was it the annual conference last year? Or was it the onboarding that we did in January? I'm sorry, we have a lot of meetings. I don't remember exactly.
No, you nailed it. He discussed it at the conference back in October. And there is specific data available to grantees around their satisfaction. But Monica, I know that your team is determining, who gets that and when that is happening. I think that went to maybe administrators or will go to administrators.
I would imagine that would be the case, that it would go to the administrators, yes.
Mhm. Yep, so it was presented at the annual conference in October.
Okay, thank you for that, Gia. So we have so many meetings that they start to look alike a little bit sometimes.
All right, thank you for that. So with that, I think we do not have any other questions for you, Monica. We will go forward with a 5-minute break. Please return back at 11:55. Welcome back, everyone. As we move forward, we will go into Module 7, or Section 13, Programmatic Monitoring with Ms. Shar Hosey.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carlita. As she stated, we're going to be talking about Section 13, which covers programmatic monitoring. And the objectives for this section is to describe the importance of program monitoring, adhering to the Illinois Works compliance review process, describing the verification process for completion and transition metrics, navigating the grant renewal process and carryover credits, responding to the progressive correction action process, create and implement corrective action plans to get off the watch list and probation status and return to program compliance, and attend quarterly administrator meetings to learn about network updates and provide feedback on programmatic process. Next slide, please. Next slide. Program monitoring is the Illinois Works initiated activity for ensuring a program is making the expected incremental progress to achieve its goals within a defined time frame as officially submitted to the Office of Illinois Works by each grantee using the work plan. The Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Grant Manager is primarily accountable for program monitoring. The grant manager's responsibilities include, but are not limited to, supporting the implementation of grant programs, ensuring budgets are within the scope of funding, enforcing regulatory compliance, ensuring grantees' progress towards meeting required outcomes, enforcing progressive corrective action, and overall programmatic monitoring. Grantees are required to have an open door policy allowing for periodic visits by DCEO and Illinois Works monitors to evaluate the progress of the program and provide documentation upon request of the monitor. Program staff will also maintain contact with participants when needed. Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship grant managers will conduct monthly compliance reviews to ensure grantees are adhering to the program expectations based on the grant agreement and the approved work plan. During this process, an organization's assigned Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship grant manager will export participant data from the Illinois Works reporting system, IWRS, to determine each grantee's progress toward enrollment, completion, and primary transition goals. Based on the data entered in IWRS, your grant manager will assign one of the following overall progress ratings based on the grantee's progress towards their enrollment, completion, and primary transition goal. The options are excellent progress, good progress, adequate progress, and poor progress. Grantees funded through the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program are subject to fiscal and programmatic monitoring visits by the department in accordance with 2 CFR 200.337. Grantees are required to have an open door policy for periodic visits. So I just wanted to make sure that I reiterated that. We're going to, next slide. And we're going to, next slide again. Completion and transition verification. Each outcome metric must be verified through data entered in IWRS. However, unlike enrollments, which are verified by information provided to Illinois Works Apprenticeship Program exclusively from the grantee, completions and transitions, primary, alternative construction, or secondary, require third-party verification. Completion verification requires that a participant successfully completes all training modules and that their attendance, post-assessments, and credentials have been entered into the corresponding training module. Each participant must also have certificates, credentials uploaded for NCCR, Trades Futures MC3, ICCB, OSHA 10 Construction, First Aid CPR, and any other certificate if applicable based on the grantee's approved curriculum. Grantees must also upload in IWRS all attendance rosters to the organization's provider info tab under grantee details, then cohort information. There are 2 levels of verification for primary transition: preliminary verification and final verification. Preliminary verification is the first level of confirmation that a completion or transition has taken place and acts as an interim metric while final verification documents are gathered. Preliminary verification carries a 50% outcome metric and reimbursement. Final verification is the second level of confirmation that a completion or transition has taken place. This level verifies that a participant has successfully completed the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program and has enrolled in a DOL registered apprenticeship program. Final verification carries a 50% outcome metric and reimbursement. This system is designed to offer credit to programs to cover any time delays between achievement of the metric and securing full verification. It also incentivizes programs to quickly verify completions and maintain connections with participants through full transitions via enrollment in a registered apprenticeship program. Permanent full-time employment is in an alternative construction trade or by securing a secondary transition. It is important to note that a participant does not always have to go through both verification levels. For example, if a participant has required documentation for a full transition, they will automatically be considered to have a final verification for their primary transition. Non-primary transitions can only be accepted once they have reached a final verification stage. There is no preliminary verification for alternative construction or secondary transitions. Next slide, please. Third-party documentation depends on the level of verification, preliminary or final. Below are examples of accepted documents. However, this list is not exhaustive. If other documentation is available, communicate with the organization's Illinois Works grant manager to gain approval for the document. All third-party documentation must clearly identify the participant's name and the name of the organization conferring the document. Completion documentation includes all required credential certifications offered by the grantee, including NCCER Trades Future MC3, ICCB certificate, OSHA 10 construction, and first aid and CPR. If alternate certificates such as flagger, forklift, CDL, or others are offered, this certificate must also be uploaded. Grantees must also upload an IWRS completed attendance rosters for each module on the organization's provider info tab under grantee details. A primary transition begins when a participant applies to a construction-based U.S. DOL registered apprenticeship program. There are two levels of verification for a primary transition representing the progress of participants through the U.S. DOL registered apprenticeship program application process: preliminary verification and final verification. To qualify for preliminary and final verification, grantees must abide by the following: individualized apprenticeship and registered apprenticeship placement. Grantees must not enroll an entire cohort into a single U.S. DOL registered apprenticeship program unless it aligns with each participant's stated career goals. Additional documentation will be requested and monitoring may be triggered in the case that an entire cohort enrolls in a single registered apprenticeship program. The Office of Illinois Works expects participants to be supported in exploring, applying to, and entering registered apprenticeship programs based on their personal career interests and chosen goals, rather than on the convenience or preference of the grantee. Staff should verify and document that each registered apprenticeship program application aligns with one of the participants' three stated goals from their career assessment to receive completion and transition credit. Grantees have a responsibility to provide individualized guidance and counseling based on the career assessment results. Facilitate connections to registered apprenticeship programs and employers align with each participant's selected trades, and avoid steering participants toward trades or registered apprenticeship program solely to meet program metrics or to receive preliminary credit. To ensure participant-centered outcomes and program integrity, grantees must adhere to the following requirements: career assessment compliance. Grantees must follow each individual participant's pre-transition career assessment and use the results to guide career exploration, training, and placement activities. Preliminary verification. registered apprenticeship program application confirmation or full application of the participant's choice, receipt from registered apprenticeship programs showing application fee was paid, notice of testing, a letter or email from the registered apprenticeship program confirming the participant's application, any documentation outlining that the individual is on a registered apprenticeship program's waiting list. Illinois Works will also accept a sponsorship letter from an employer. The application enrollment of a DOL registered apprenticeship program should align to the participant's pre-transition career assessment. Applications to DOL registered apprenticeship programs must be for Department of Labor registered apprenticeship programs that the participant has given consent and expressed interest to, and not to be applied to on their behalf. Activities that do not correspond to the participant's stated goals, for example, enrolling in an unrelated trade program for convenience or quota purposes, do not qualify for preliminary credit or final credit. As mentioned in the previous section under primary transition, specific requirements on participants applying to the Department of Labor registered apprenticeship programs must be met. Grantees should note that for a document to be verified, transition verification documents, including registered apprenticeship program application receipts and electronic confirmations of applications, need to clearly state the following items: name of the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program graduate, date of the application, enrollment or hire, name of the U.S. Department of Labor registered apprenticeship program for primary, and confirmation that the individual completed, not started, a Department of Labor registered apprenticeship program application. For final verification, an acceptance letter to a registered apprenticeship program will be accepted. For alternative construction transition, a detailed pay stub, employment offer letter, or employment verification form. Application for employment does not constitute a final verification, only documentation that the employment has been secured. For secondary transition, final verification, detailed pay stub, employment offer letter, employment verification form, current enrollment into a higher education or advanced training program will also be accepted. Next slide, please. Once an overall progress rating is determined each month, each grantee will be emailed monthly reports, monthly compliance reports, and monthly compliant payment worksheets. The Illinois Works Grant Manager is primarily accountable for program monitoring, including the monthly compliance review. Illinois Works Grant Managers will conduct monthly compliance reviews to ensure grantees are adhering to the program expectations based on the grant agreement and the approved work plan. And you can see page 226 in the grantee manual for specific guidance. Monthly compliance reports provide the grantee with their overall progress rating, their increase to their reimbursement cap based on that month's review, notes regarding their progress rating, and any relevant data trends identified in the review. Information detailed in the report is only a snapshot of what was entered into IWRS since the previous month's compliance review. This report is not an aggregate report. Only new enrollments, completions, and transitions since the last monthly compliance report are listed. The monthly compliance payment worksheet is an aggregate worksheet that outlines the total number of enrollments, completions, primary transitions, and secondary transitions. This report also provides grantees with a detailed outline of their custom performance-based payment funding formula and reimbursement maximums and grant award information. You can refer to section 11, finances, records, and reporting for more information regarding this section of your report. Next slide, please. As established in GATA and explained in the notice of funding opportunity for each Illinois Works grant year, grantees have the opportunity to renew their grant 2 times, including the initial grant year. The 2 additional renewals allow grantees to implement the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program for a maximum of 3 years before having to reapply through the merit-based competitive process. In the fall of each grant year, Illinois Works will alert grantees that they have been invited to renew their grant agreement. Grantees will be invited to renew based on their program performance. The performance threshold to qualify for renewal will be provided to grantees in August of each grant year. Grantees invited to renew will be asked to submit a grant renewal application and a series of programmatic forms that detail the plans for the future grant year. And guidance for this can be found on page 235 of the Grantee Manual. Next slide, please. Due to the timing of programming and cycles of registered apprenticeship program enrollment periods, it is possible that a participant will attend training in one grant year, but not complete or fully transition until the following grant year or beyond. As a result, a carryover credit will be provided to grantees for their pre-apprentice graduate related outcome metric. If the completion transition takes place within the same grant agreement year of the original enrollment. Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship grant agreements last a maximum of 3 years, the initial grant year followed by up to 2 renewals. These renewals are extensions of the original grant agreement. After the second renewal, GATA requirements dictate that grantees must reapply and go through a competitive bid process. This officially closes the original grant agreement and begins a new grant agreement, also with the possibility of 2 grant renewals. Grant renewals are not automatically offered to grantees. And I'm just going to go over the carryover credit timeline. So if a participant is enrolled in the initial grant year, their carryover credit will apply in renewal year 1 or renewal year 2. If a participant is enrolled in renewal year 1, the carryover credit can only be applied in renewal year 2. If a participant enrolls in renewal year 2, there will be no carryover credit. If a grantee has gone through the new competitive bid process for Illinois Works, any completions or transitions will not carry over into the new grant agreement. While grantees are not eligible for a third grant renewal, grantees can choose to administratively extend their contract for an additional year with the sole purpose of earning carryover credit. During this extension, grantees will be allowed to submit additional documentation to demonstrate completions and transitions earned for participants that were enrolled during their first 3 grant years. No new enrollments will be accepted during this time. And there is additional guidance available starting on page 235 concerning this area. Next slide, please. Progressive corrective action. Grantees must adhere to the program expectations and requirements outlined in the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program 2026 Grantee Manual and in the grant agreement. Monthly program review. This includes enforcement of progressive corrective action under the preview of the Illinois Works Grant Manager. Progressive corrective action occurs in phases. There's a warning, which is where a corrective action plan is required, and a warning is a formal notification that expectations have not been met. It's issued if a grantee has not made enough progress for a required outcome for 2 consecutive months with a status of inadequate progress or poor progress. The watch list is another section where a corrective action plan is required, and the watch list is designed to identify and assist non-compliant grantees to improve performance and participant outcomes. It is issued if a grantee has not made enough progress for a required outcome for 3 consecutive months with a status of inadequate progress or poor progress. Probation is designed to actively monitor programs that fail to meet compliance with required program activities, performance benchmarks, and or fiscal and administrative rules. Failure to address the outlined expectations as stated in the grantee's agreement within 3 months after being placed on probation, the program may be subject to decreased funding or closing of the agreement and may not qualify for additional Illinois Works funding in the future. Next slide, please. The quarterly administrator meetings are designed for the Office of Illinois Works to present on grantee network progress, upcoming changes to programming, reporting, or important deadlines. This is also a time when the program administrators are encouraged to ask questions, make comments, and offer ideas on how to enhance the program. 4 meetings are scheduled throughout the year, and program administrators are required to attend them all. For 2 of the meetings, the attendance is required in person, taking place at the regional meeting and the other at the annual conference. The other meetings will be attended virtually. Next slide, please. So I know that was a lot of information about this. Are there any questions? If you have questions, you can unmute yourself or add them to the chat.
There are no questions in the chat.
Well, if there aren't any questions, or maybe if you want to think about some things, you can always send an email to ceo.ioworks@illinois.gov. I want to thank you for your participation in this section of the workshop, in the webinar, and I am going to pass this over to my colleague, Edwin.
Great, thank you, Shar, for all that information and for introducing me again. So we'll go over section 14. We're close to the end, so please bear with us, but I will go over section 14 of the grantee manual where it talks about audit requirements. I know Shar went over programmatic monitoring, but now we'll talk about particularly audit requirements. So we'll talk about the objectives is articulate those requirements in GATA, which my colleague Dan went over a little bit, to CRF 200 and the Illinois Administrative Code. We'll talk about the audit types and explain audit submission requirements. So next slide, please. All right, great. So this section of the manual is audit requirements. The state of Illinois does require all grantees to comply with the federal audit requirements. This section will be an overview of the types of entities that are required to submit an audit. For more information regarding audit requirements and compliance, please visit the audit report manual, review manual, or contact your assigned grant manager. Now, a copy of the audit report review manual is being provided to you in the chat. So there'll be a link there for you to just review as well. And you are also welcome to contact the help desk. The email is also in the chat now. So in addition, questions can also be submitted through the online form located on the Grant Opportunities page of the DCO website, Grant Opportunities and Grant Opportunities at Illinois.gov. The email address and website are being provided for you in the chat. All right, so we'll go over audit types. Oh, okay, we got a head start there. So not all grantees are required to submit an audit based on federal audit requirements. Audit requirements are based on the amount and type of funding a grantee receives, so whether it's state, federal direct, or federal pass-through, as well as other requirements. So here are some requirements based on that: a single audit or audit conducted in accordance with GAGAS between $500,000 and $749,000 and $999,000, and audit conducted with accordance with GAAS between the amount you see there. Next slide, please. So right here we see a flow chart. Now a grantee, and here's an example of that. So a grantee that expends $750,000 or more during the grantee's fiscal year in federal awards, and this could be federal pass-through and direct federal funds, from all sources must have a single audit connected in accordance with 2 CFR 200.514. Now, grantees meeting certain requirements may elect to have a program-specific audit conducted in accordance with 2 CFR 200.507 with the approval of DCO. And this is also in compliance with 2 CFR 200.514. Now, a grantee that expends less than $750,000 during the grantee's fiscal year in federal awards, these are again either federal pass-through and or direct funds, from all sources, fair, not subject to the single audit requirements for that fiscal year. Now, grantees who expend less than $750,000 from all sources are subject to the following requirements, which is A, grantees who expend $500,000 or more during the grantee's fiscal year in state issue awards singularly or in any combination are not subject to a single audit, must have a financial statement audit conducted in accordance with the generally accepted government auditing standards, GAGAS for short, And B, grantees who do not meet the requirements in subsection A but expend $300,000 or more during the non-federal entity's fiscal year and state issue awards, singularly or in any combination, must have a financial statement audit conducted in accordance with the GAS, so the generally accepted auditing standards. And lastly, C, grantees who do not meet the requirements in subsection A or B but have audits conducted voluntarily or based on other regulatory requirements must submit those audits for review. This audit is required to be submitted through the GATA audit report review process. And again, all these requirements, I know that's a lot of information to explain it, but all this information is available starting on page 240 on the 2026 grantee manual. Next slide, please. All right, so for the audit not required and no audit conducted, so for grantees that are not required to complete an audit because of the previous criteria discussed does not apply, grantees must still submit the following documents. So a consolidated year-end financial report, which is due 30 days after the completion, but no later than 6 months after the end of the grantee's fiscal year end. Non-compliance with audit requirements could result in the implementation of a grantee compliance enforcement system and may result in an ability to receive grant funds in the future from the state. Next slide, please. Okay, so single audit reporting package is due 30 days after audit report completion, but no later than 9 months after the end of the grantee's fiscal year, and as described at 200.512, section C, subsection 1. Now, financial statement audit reporting packages include GAGAS, GAAS, and other are due 30 days after audit report completion, but no later than 6 months after the end of the grantee's fiscal year end. And there'll be a link in the chat for you to follow the GATA audit report review process manual to go over this information as well. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so for more information regarding audit requirements and compliance, there'll be the GATA resource library, and all these will be put in the chat for you to click on. So the GATA resource library is one. Then there is the 2 CFR 200 subpart F, the audit requirements. There's 44 Illinois Administrative Code, section 7000.90. Those are the audit requirements from the state. And then if you have any questions regarding audits or requirements, please contact your grant manager or as well the general email box, that email address that was provided in the chat earlier, ceo.granthelp@illinois.gov. All right, next slide, please. All right, so I know that that's a lot of information regarding audits, but hopefully with the links that we're being provided in the chat, thank you again, Dr. Austin, for helping with those. But those being provided in the chat, you should be able to refer to those and have that review that information. But if there aren't any questions, we could move on.
All right, but we will go ahead with our evaluation.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Dr. Austin.
Thank you. Okay, we'd like to get feedback from you, as we always do at the end of our webinars. And if you have not had a chance to stay in the Mentimeter, that information will be provided for you in the chat. So the first question is, please share your views on this training by rating the following statements from 1 to being the lowest to 10 being the highest. Okay, I think we have some responses coming in. To what extent did it meet your expectations? It looks like we only have about 6 respondents. We have 54 people in Mentimeter, so we'll give them a few more minutes to respond. There we go. You can see those numbers climbing now. All right, a few more seconds and then we'll go on to the next slide. Thank you. So let's move on to the next slide. The course was relevant to what I wanted to learn about this subject matter. Strongly disagree to strongly agree. Okay, we're starting to see some answers come in. Thank you. All right. Got a lot of mixed answers here. Somewhat strongly and strongly disagree, and somewhat disagree. Okay. Continue to vote on your opinion about this question so we can get a good sense of what you valued for this session. All right, maybe about 20 seconds more and then we'll move on to the next slide. All right, thank you so much. Let's move on, Shiva. I plan to apply what I learned. Again, we're going to use the same set of questions, same set of responses, strongly disagree to strongly agree. I plan to apply what I've learned. Thank you for those responses. They're coming a little faster now. Thank you. I'll give you a few more seconds here. All right. Thank you so much. Very good. Let's move on. What improvements might you recommend? Here's an opportunity for you to share with us how we can continue to improve the programming and the webinar sessions that we provide for you. More breaks, NA, more hands-on, break at the halfway point, and sound quality. Thank you for that. None at the moment. Any other responses? NA. Okay, let's continue to add them in. Shorter sessions, patience, more hands-on. Thank you for that. Break earlier on. Thank you. All right, great. We can move on to the next slide. What did you find effective? If we make any changes, what might you recommend we keep? Okay, we have another one coming in, 2 NAs. NA. The amount of information given. Okay, other agencies' comments, good overview and timing. Keep the meetings shorter, 3 meetings in 1 week, plus one of them being a full day is crazy. We all have full-time jobs for our organization. Thank you for that comment. Delivering the information was effective. The only changes I would suggest would be to make it more interactive, real world examples, explanations, and templates provide best practices for a more engaging presentation. Thanks. That's what I enjoy. Keep everything very informative. Thank you all for responding to these questions. And I think that might be our last one, better sound. Okay. Is there anything else about this course you think we should know? All right. We have 2 NAs. Very good. Anything you think we should know? Your input is valuable and it will help us to continually improve what we are offering. Please provide handouts so I can take better notes, display some walkthroughs when it comes to how to upload reports. Thank you for that. Any other comments? Valuable information, but delivery could be improved. Thank you. All right. Any final responses? I appreciate all the information. As a new grantee, this information is much appreciated. Thank you. Please shorten the time, make them shorter or spread out the meetings better. Start in early January through March with a meeting every other week versus 3 in 1 week and 2 in other 2 weeks. Thank you for that input. Okay, great. Any final comments? I'm gonna give you about 20 more seconds. Later start time for meetings, okay? All right. Shiva, I think that is our last slide for the day. I want to thank everybody for participating in this webinar. We have just completed all 3 sessions of the 2026 Grantee Manual. Thank you all and have a blessed afternoon.